I mean, I don't want to drop too many names because I would forget so many, but I was always curious in music which was sounding unique, which I could remember or recognize. And so when something was like sounding like nothing else, I was pretty much into it. And it could be electronic music or classical music, jazz, crossover. I mean, basically all these genres suggest that it sounds like something else, but I was always interested in music which almost sounds like there's no genre, it's just music. And so I was always looking out for these things. And of course I loved bands like Portishead when they came out when I was 14, 15, or bands like Ronnie Size, all these London drum and bass, early drum and bass music, and early warp music like FX Twin, Autechre, all that stuff. But then on the other side, a lot of ECM. It's a record label from Munich which mostly does jazz inspired music. It doesn't really sound like jazz, but it's very much instrumental usually, and that was something I really enjoyed. Just instruments which I know, like piano and saxophone, but they would play very different sounds I would never hear from a saxophone or piano. And I think that spirit is part of my own musical identity. Classical music was my daily task because I was learning piano with classical music, and I felt like classical music for a long time was connected with practicing. And so it was not always my favorite, it was what I had to do. And all the other musics was what I wanted to do. So probably I got through the classical training, I got the technique, but then I wanted to do music which is not classical, but music which is anti-classical. Because classical sounds like it's already there, it's classic, it's classy, means it's also kind of set, or like it's done, it's something we know.
Yeah.
But I want to do music we don't know. So when people say I'm doing kind of classical music, I'm like, yeah, whatever, just name it whatever you want. But I don't agree. I'm not doing classical music, I'm doing new music. And so whatever people need to call it in order to make it a genre is fine with me, but I won't accept it, and I also won't deny it. A lot of people, classical musicians, they want to be part of this new school of musicians who use both like electronic elements and maybe technology and old-fashioned instruments like strings and pianos and classical instruments. And I think a lot of open-minded musicians are willed to try to contribute, which is great. But for the time being, I really enjoy doing it all myself, because that's the shortest way for me to make something which is really truly me. And whenever I get on stage with a 40-people orchestra, it would never be my band. It would be 40 people trying to give me what I want because I'm their boss. But that's not politically, and it's not what I want. I don't want to boss people around. I want people to find their own voice and not play what I write down, and then you play this or you play that. No, I want people to come up with their own ideas, and then the collaboration makes truly sense for me. Yeah, I mean, it's not only making music or making instruments, it's also living a life which is inspiring, which inspires you to new ideas, and being in touch with artists who have totally different genres, who work with different materials. And sometimes you can listen to them and you might find interesting ideas for your music, or you see like, oh, there's a similarity between how the universe works and how music works. And then you get inspired by that idea, and then you come up with a solution to incorporate that new knowledge you gained into your compositions. And for me it's very much important that I know every single aspect of the performance, of the recording, of the instrument, because I can only help my team to get better if I know what's going on. I don't want to rely on people helping me. I want to help my team to make it better. So I feel like I need to know everything about music. I need to how to record music, I need to know how to master music, how to mix it, how to compose it, how to repair my instruments, how to modify my instruments so they sound different. All these things are very personal and very compositional things. It changes the sound, and whatever changes the sound is also part of the composition, because music is sound and sound is music. Yeah, all the particles of my live set or my records I'm doing and the cover artwork and all that, I feel like it's important that I have an idea about what's going on. Otherwise, I would lose control and I would lose input. And it's not that I'm a total control freak. I also like to get input from outside, but I still want to understand it myself and not be like, okay, I'm Nils Frahm and I have some ghostwriters, they write my string arrangements, you do this, you record it, and you do the promotion and that other stuff, and I just relax. I wanna learn, you know, I'm really eager to learn, and I don't want to stop here and say, like, I'm only the composer, this is the conductor, and this is the mixing engineer, I don't know what they're doing. I don't really care. I care about it all, so. Yeah, it's a good question. What is composing versus music making? Yeah, I mean, there's improvisation, and on the other end of the spectrum there is composition. And it can both blend. You can compose and improvise on the composition, or you can strictly improvise and don't have any idea. Composition is something you imagine before you hear it, and then you try to meet this imagination by composing notes and trying to kind of meet what you imagined. And improvisation is when you kind of only get inspired by the note you're playing, and the next note is something you come up with in no time, like it needs to be there, like intuition. So composition is maybe a little bit outdated word, but it's also a word which people like to use for themselves because it sounds classy. You know, like, it's nice to be a composer because Mozart was a composer, Beethoven was a composer, and all these huge names. So when I'm at the dinner table with a lot of older people who are all like very much into art and culture, and I'm saying like, hey, I'm a DJ, I won't impress them as much as if I'd say I'm a composer. And any electronic musician can call themselves a composer because they compose sounds or whatever. But they could also call themselves humbly a musician. But when you say you're a musician, then people might suggest you're playing at weddings or you're making music like that, you know? So it's not a really good word. So it's more like self-marketing. What word do you want to use for what word do you want to use for yourself? And again, like with music genres, I don't really like to call myself anything. I think I want to call myself a sound artist or like a musical artist, because I try to do a little bit of all. I worked with this piano builder David Klavins because I was invited to record on his self-made piano, which is also the biggest piano in the world. It's really good sounding. And I recorded 5 days, and during that time we had a lot of discussions about building pianos and piano designs. And we both agreed that pianos are not done yet, they're not fully developed instruments, they still lack potential, or they still have potential. And I was asking him, why do you think piano builders like Yamaha or Steinway or like the big names, why don't they try to make a piano better? Because the last big inventions for the piano are almost 80 or 90 years old, and since then nothing major changed. We still use wood and felt and all old-fashioned materials to make a high-tech instrument. And this has something to do with marketing again. The conclusion was it's marketing. Because Steinway said at one point, the piano, a Steinway can't be better. So just accept it. This is the Steinway, and the Steinway is the Steinway is the Steinway. And I find that interesting because on the other hand I'm working with new software or synthesizers, or like I try to modify my musical machines to make them better all the time. You know, I find them all underdeveloped, and then I open them up and solder some stuff out and put new parts in and try to make them sound better. Like the sonic quality needs to be better. And also with pianos I feel like they're just not really perfect yet. And so I wanted to make a piano which is just radically different from its design. It only has 64 keys, so less keys. And it only has one string per note, which is also unusual because normal pianos have 3 strings per note. And it's not supposed to be better than a Steinway, it's just supposed to be very different. It's just very light. It's 80 kilograms, 160 pounds, so it's almost nothing. You can lift it with 2 people. It's kind of small. It has no black shiny wood around it because that blocks away the sound. So we take all the black wood which is covering a piano, we take that off. That's not there. So you always see the strings, you always see the mechanics. You can touch what makes the sound all the time. That's also good. And all kinds of things. It looks not like a piano, it does not really sound like a piano, but you can play it like a piano. The theater is a magical world, so I loved working on that project in Denmark and Copenhagen with that company called Hotel Performer. And they invited me to just do my thing. They didn't ask me to do anything really, I just was asked to contribute. And so that was really nice, since I had a lot of freedom, but still felt like I'm also just a part of a bigger organism, like one organ of an organism. And so the musical ideas changed, and I think I learned a lot from that, because I did things which would not work standalone as just a concert experience, but I did something which works together with the light, with the acting, with the stage design and everything. It's difficult. I think it's really hard to manipulate people with music in a conscious way. I could probably think of something how to annoy people with music. You know, I make a very high peep tone, which is really high and really harsh, and then I put a lot of noise in that, and then people would be very annoyed and want to leave. If I want to make, I can do that with film music. I can come up with music which makes an emotion stronger or which counteracts an emotion, like Stanley Kubrick always did that. He was showing something and the music suggested something else just to make the picture even greater. So the picture has a frame and the music made the frame bigger. And this is how you can manipulate people with music, yes, but it's really hard to predict it. It's easier with words, because words are commonly understood, but music is not commonly understood the same. You can't understand music the same, because depending on where you're from, if you come from Africa or India, or music will always have a different impact on you. I think there was something in the last century, especially in the late 60s, like the 67 to 69, our parents' generation thought that the world could be a great place. You know, that everything what is bad could be eliminated and only the good things could blossom. Like, people believed we can make this world a great place. And maybe that sounds naive to us now, because we learned, shit, the world is going to go under, you know, like there's Armageddon coming. We now know that the sun will explode in 4 billion years, so no matter when it happens, it will happen, you know. So maybe that knowledge we have now about the future of our planet and our universe puts everything what we do in a different perspective, which can be quite exciting. Because knowing that this all will end makes it not so important for me to build a big statue of myself, you know, because that statue will vanish into dust and form into a new planet, maybe or maybe not. And we all like how we sit here. I mean, now we know this hand is as old as the Big Bang, you know, and we're all part of this big cycle. And I feel like all this knowledge we gain through science and scientists is quite disturbing on one side, and it makes me quite relaxed on the other side, because it seems like what we ever experienced down here, you know, like somebody we love dies, and then some friend has a new child, and all these things, they cause emotions. Like, I feel sad when a good friend dies, and I feel very happy for my friend when they have a new kid, and all these things. They are very human, these emotions, but in the greater scheme of things, for me, it doesn't really matter. For me, it's the same thing. It's part of the same thing. Of course, I feel also sad, but when I reflect upon it, I can say this sadness is also something truly magical, because it doesn't need to be there, but it's there. And I wonder why. Because seeing planets evolve and vanish all the time in the universe is the same thing of like a little ant getting born, or an ant being killed by my feet or your telephone. And then all that is making us less naive, I think. It puts a new challenge on our goals in life, and I like to take a challenge.